It has been years now, but long ago, the DC animated movie universe came to a close with Justice League Dark Apocalypse War. That time has now come for the Tomorrowverse in the release of its concluding chapter, Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 3. We have covered the Tomorrowverse for quite a while now here on the channel, so seeing it come to an end is quite a weird feeling. To me, the DC AMU only just ended, yet it's been over 4 years now. So, how was its finale? And we also got to talk about that special tribute to a legend of DC. Before getting into this video, make sure to join our Discord where we talk about DC, Marvel, and many other cool stuff we enjoy with the DTE community. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel with notifications on, getting closer to that AK now, insane number. The links are down below. Thanks. Normally I'd start with the plot or a line that is really hot, something to grab your attention so you don't click away. I love this, or I hate that. However, for this video, no matter what I think of the film itself, we need to talk about, for everyone watching this video, no matter where we stand on anything DC related, whether you love the Tomorrowverse or not, or you're a DC AMU person, or you're an Arkham kid, wherever part you reside in with the DC community, we have all been impacted in some shape or form by Kevin Conroy's and Mark Hamill's Batman and Joker performances.
Let me go or we'll both die! Whatever it takes!
After decades in the roles, going all the way back to the Batman the Animated Series, the two are they are Batman and Joker. When I read for these characters, their voices appear in my head. So separating everything, their final scene together was beautiful. Earlier in the year, there was quite the controversy over whether Kill the Justice League's Batman would be the last incarnation we see Kevin Conroy do. It was everywhere on Twitter, and honestly, the discourse around it became so toxic and so sickening that if it was, it would have been grim for this to be how this Batman went out. Thankfully, we were able to get a second chance at this, where Kevin's Batman can serve up some of the hardest lines as the Caped Crusader that could not have been more fitting.
The end of the world, and you want to spend it with me? I didn't know you cared.
I care, Joker. About Gotham. About justice. And if it has to end, at least I go out like this. Being Batman.
Simply perfection. Mark and Kevin go out together. What actually happens in part 3 of Crisis? Does it recover from just how abysmal part 2 was? The short answer is that part 3 feels like almost the entire story they wanted to tell you over 3 movies within 90 minutes. So much happens, yet also nothing does. I'll explain further. The contrast between this one and the last one is insane. In this section, I just want to run through what happens and share my thoughts as we go. A little different to normal, but seeing as this is the finale of the entire universe, we did it for the DC AMU, so it only seems fair to also do it for the Tomorrowverse too. After this section, we can go into just straight thoughts and opinions on how they did more directly. We start with the search for Wonder Woman in deep space. We find her to reveal that the heroes are in a place called the Bleed to avoid the Anti-Monitor's destruction. Very quickly, our gang of heroes are fighting with characters getting pulled from different Earths and different times, going from a long sequence of them fighting off frickin' dinosaurs to the Bat family literally facing off Nazis using classic Batman villain weapons. For what reason? Don't ask, don't know. The movie doesn't care. The first act is wild. Things are just kind of happening. Frustratingly, it's more action of bad guys not moving while the heroes just do flips and punching goons with automatic MP40s that shoot lots of bullets very quickly, yet they don't. Like, I get it, it's already suspension of disbelief that they can even win a fight like this, but at least make it a bit more believable. To stop Nazi Bane, he literally runs right at him and does the anti-Bane move on him. Act 2 is where we spend most of our time. Batman and a few characters go on the search for John Constantine. And it's here where the DC AMU set of films starts to really connect to the Tomorrowverse quite well. With Dr. Fate, Bats, and John, we are able to follow the events of after Apocalypse War. We see Barry kill baby Darkseid via a spell John cast. I can't actually believe this happens in the movie. They actually used the idea Scott and Rhodey came up with in Endgame.
Go back in time. Why don't we just find baby Thanos, and...
Doing this, however, created the entire multiverse, which means the DC AMU predates all of DC animated fiction, which I don't really have any strong sort of feelings on. It retroactively connects everything and gives it a reason as to why certain things happen the way they do. It does nothing with this interesting concept. It just, technically, this is the case. However, it then further proves that these films do a horrible job at being the vehicle to tell this story with a twist like this. We will get to that later on. The other half of the cast just attempts to fight off the Anti-Monitor. That's really it. These two stories take up most of the runtime till we get to the third act. While we are here, I need to rant about how boring the Anti-Monitor is. We went from this to whatever this is, and it's not like it hasn't been done well in animation before. I hate everything about this design. Not a single part works. He stands around waving his arm, and then a blue streak comes from his hand that wipes out planets. That is it. That is his character. With the entire last third of the movie fighting him, it's just visually ugly. And to set the stage for a huge finale, it's just boring. I am sorry. Having a black blob just stand on screen while every character stands in front of it in every scene shooting their laser ability isn't enjoyable. Then lastly, the big twist is that the entire reason this is all happening is due to John doing that killing the baby Darkseid earlier thing. We're creating this multiverse from an absolute point in time. Now, other comic book creators know the stuff in the books better than I do, but to me, knowing some parts, like some bits of Darkseid's Avatar situation and how it all connects together pre and post Crisis, I can just safely say this feels so damn simplistic and wasteful. I'm actually going to quote one of my mutuals here because he nails my thoughts on this point exactly how I would want to put it. Who even was this made for? Not me, not people who want to see nostalgia bait, not a normal person. Who? Like, honestly, this is perfect. He is someone who has read comics nearly better than anyone I know. So for him, this is nonsense. It's pointless. For me, as someone who knows some parts, it also doesn't help me. It's not enjoyable. I don't see what I recognize from some of the parts I've read. And for someone who hasn't read anything, this just doesn't make sense. So as I've said in previous videos, with the writers not knowing who the protagonist is, I don't think the writers even know who their audience is. Anyways, the heroes then get a choice to sacrifice one of their own to create a portal to a brand new universe that is the Prime Universe. One that combines all their stories into one to formulate whatever the future of DC animation is. Just one problem. The vehicle to do all of this is the Tomorrowverse. That is the problem. The Tomorrowverse from the beginning was always moving in this direction. It had the same constraints as the previous universes of needing to have the same art style and tones for each new movie. Most likely having budget constraints, which by this point in my coverage of DC animation, I am sick of needing to bring this up as a caveat. I don't do this for any other IP, movie, show, or anime. Just these animated films do I need to go, oh, the budget, oh, you gotta look at the budget of these movies. See each one of these movies and tell me if this tells a story, a full story of a multiverse saga setting up the idea of merging all of the history of DC into one continuum. Wait, it doesn't look like that? How bar a few elements here and there, characters returning from some movies, with mostly the heavy lifting coming from Warworld or the Justice Society one, leading to this huge movie event that there is nothing connecting the overarching themes and narrative that entails also Supermen, that you can't tell the difference between the two, besides their suits having minor differences and their cheekbones are different, a Bat family that doesn't know each other or we know of them, and a cast of brand new characters we just don't know or have any attachment to have a large amount of screen time that amounts to nothing. Only if DC was rich in numerous versions of the same animated characters over the decades of animated films and TV. This is something I brought up in earlier videos on Crisis. Okay, enough snark. When they showcase the worlds of what we know and love get destroyed, as I suggested, it really did drive the point home harder than if it were merely random Earths from characters we didn't really know and them sadly reacting to it. However, having not a single one of them take part in the 3-part story makes absolutely zero sense to me. I'm sorry. The huge reason I am pushing this is that it even leads to these movies struggling to stand on their own 2 feet. As Crisis has no true lead protagonist, all that time that went to Supergirl in part 2 was for nothing, as it takes 57 minutes for her to do anything in part 3, bar moping around. She gets one scene where someone makes fun of her whilst she sits in a corner, and then one sort of nice scene with Babs. What is even the point of developing characters if you're not even going to use them? For them to just then replicate the end point of an arc they had in a book that they weren't following at all. You gave Supergirl all of Harbiger's scenes in Crisis, then in part 3, you randomly have her back to her Supergirl plotline for her to die instead of Clark, like how it transpired in the book. Yet, instead of the thrilling fight she had with the Monitor in the book, she just goes inside of the Monitor and blows up when he's unconscious. Superman then picks her up looking flat, with zero emotion, then brings her back to the ship to recreate that iconic panel and begin crying. None of this lands whatsoever. The way to describe the Tomorrowverse perfectly is that every single event that happens, every moment that we see on screen is written entirely to be done in lowercase. Death, twists, explosions, everything. Nothing has kinetic energy and it's always a slog. Voice actors that appear in previous films and TV shows that we all love appear to be flat, and we know them to be better. And it's these set of characters that leads into Earth Prime. Imagine instead of following 30 new perspectives, we had one brand new Earth, that being the Tomorrowverse Earth. Then all of the new additional Earths are ones that we've seen before elsewhere. So the Batman, Supergirl, and Superman from like these 3 movies, or this whole universe, that stays the same, right? But then everyone else we can take from all the pre-established universes and the attachments we have with them, the voice actors, the art style, we can make them clash, and having that contrasting art style showcase that they're all characters that don't belong together. So when they walk into that portal at the end, they bring 70 years of DC animation through it and collectively all start anew. Like throw in Earths like Rino Romano's Batman and his League. Throw in Beyond the Batman, pull from anywhere. And it doesn't need to be the Batman from that Earth. It can be any assortment of characters. And I don't want to sound like a guy who demands it be done my way, because honestly, I have no vision for how it to be done right. It's just, you have a shot at goal from the goal square and somehow you shank it, and it baffles me. It really baffles me. The future of DC is unknown. We can go anywhere from here. We are now on one Earth where anyone who comes in can say anything is canon and anything's the starting point. And as someone who is quite optimistic, I'm actually excited for this. I put a community post earlier and some of the comments seem to show that you guys for this film kinda are on the same train of thought as I am. Down to, yeah, no Alexander Luthor or Superboy Prime. They are huge things to exclude. Another commenter pointed out there might be a huge plot hole in this universe, which I don't have time to cover here, but I'm re-recording this entire video in the first place, so check out that comment. It's really long and it's really interesting, and it's food for thought. However, I do have one question. What did you think? How would you like to see DC animation move going forward? What are your ideas? Drop them down below and we can get chatting about your guys' thoughts. Other than that, I just have to thank my patrons. In the top mate tier, we have Nick. In the great mate tier, we have Colin and CJ. And in the good mate tier, we have Jadu Sable. If you're interested in some of the perks that we offer, please make sure to follow the link in the description down below. You get to see videos early, among other great things. All right, make sure to join the Discord. Thanks for watching today's video. I'll see you in the next one. Oh, done.